Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Technology Guy. This is episode 3, and today we're going to be talking apps, specifically the Tesla app and a third-party app called Stats. Both of these apps are great and a great way to manage your Tesla. We're going to be taking you through the features of both of them. We'll talk about things that we like and things that we don't, and ultimately we'll give you our decision for our favorite app and the one that we use on a daily basis. So let's get right to it. All right, so I have my phone here, and what we're going to do is pop that open right on the screen, and we're going to be going through, like I said, the Tesla app and the Stats app. So let's start with the Tesla app. If I open that app up, the first thing we're going to see is that the app connects to my car. It's going to tell me some information right off the bat at the top here. How much is my car charged? Is it parked? And then we have some quick options at the top. So let's just go through them. Starting at the very top left, we have our settings menu. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you can see that we have inbox, we have loot box, account, notifications. So if I click inbox, this is any mail that Tesla needs to send you. I haven't gotten a lot since I've had mine. I've had it for about 6 months. There's the loot box. So if we go in there, this is the same icon that was at the top right when we started. This is where your code is that you can share. Right now, they have a promotion where if someone buys a Tesla and uses your code, each of you get 5,000 free supercharging miles, which is really cool. So that code for me is down below. If you're you're thinking about buying a Tesla or you know someone who is, feel free to share that code with them, and they can get those 5,000 free miles, and so can I. The other thing, we'll go back to Lootbox in a little bit. We have some account information here. I won't go into there because there's some personal information. And then notifications. So you can choose what type of things do you want the car to notify you about through the app here. You can sync your calendar on your phone, which is really cool. So you can see in your car what events you have coming up for the day. And you can also log into the app with Face ID, as you see as an option here. If I go back to the main screen, I'm going to actually jump back into loot box, but I'm going to do it this time from the top right-hand side of the screen. So what we see here, again, is that screen where we have my referral code, but we also have a little bar graph here on the top left, and this is just something kind of interesting. This actually shows you how many tons of CO2 has been saved by Tesla owners right now. So the bottom here will populate. You can kind of see the owners who have, I guess, driven the most or saved the most CO2. You can choose local. You could choose just in the US, and it would usually populate here. Yeah, so by city, so you can see which cities, and of course a lot of the California cities are right on top there. And then you can see in the world, right? And then this list is by country. So the car has been out for the longest time in the US. We have a little bit of a head start here, but I expect as the car gets bigger in other countries, they're going to quickly catch up, and the bigger these numbers, the better. So I'm looking forward to seeing them go up. Let's go back into the app. We're going to close out of our loot box here, and let's actually go through some of the sub-menus that you see here. So starting with the phone key. So that's just telling me that it's connected to my phone, which means that I can do all the things that you see in the menu here. So there's climate. Let's go in there. So this kind of shows me a top-down picture of the car, which is really cool. I can actually turn it on from here, so I'll do that. And you'll see right now the interior is 86, and so the car, if I put it on 70, you see those blue lines, and that means that it's going to turn on the air conditioner for me. If it's the winter time, those are red, and that's telling me it's heating. In the winter time as well, I can turn on the seat heaters remotely, so I can choose any of them. I can choose their intensity just by kind of like tapping on each one here. And so I'm going to turn all those guys off, and I'm going to turn off the climate in the car. Well, let's try that one more time. Okay, so it took the command. Gave me a little error there for a second. So let's keep going. If I go down to controls, you'll see this is where the majority of the controls are. So I can click on unlock, and that'll just kind of open the doors up for me. That'll let me do things like take the charger out, basically just waking the car up, right? So I can unlock and lock. I can also flash the lights by clicking that. I can honk the horn. And let's do an example of all these actually. So I'm going to hit flashlights. Okay, do a horn honk here. So start is an interesting one because, as we all know, there's no ignition in a Tesla. So what start actually does is it allows someone to remotely put your car into drive or reverse, or basically as if they have a phone key or a key card for 2 minutes. So if I hit start, anyone can basically use my car for 2 minutes. This would be if you need to give someone the access to drive your car remotely. Once they get to where they're going and they put it in park, it's basically game over until you hit that start button again. So they'd have to call you again and say, hey, can you start it again? I got to go somewhere else, if you want them to be able to drive somewhere else. So just a neat feature there. You can open the front trunk. So let's show that. Okay. And let's open the rear trunk. So you might have noticed there that both of those opened by themselves. Normally in the Model 3 that doesn't happen. This past weekend I replaced the struts on the front and the trunk with some stronger ones. These are ones that allow it to open automatically. I'm going to actually do a whole separate video just on that. And if you're interested in seeing that, join us for the next video. That's probably what we'll be talking about is how to replace those struts and what they do. Going along here in the app, you see there's valet mode. So what valet mode does is it basically restricts the acceleration of the car. It locks your glove box and your frunk. So this way the valet can't kind of take your Model 3 for a joyride and open her up. Everything will kind of accelerate kind of slowly, not too slow, but safely. It restricts the speed limit as well. And so what it is you could turn that on. You basically set a pin in your car, and the everything is locked until you get back and turn valet mode off. There's the new Sentry mode. So if you're not familiar with Sentry mode, what that does is it records from the two side cameras and the front dash camera. Anytime someone gets close to your car, they'll get a little notification in the car on the screen that says Sentry mode enabled, you're being recorded. And then if there's actually some kind of an impact to the car or glass breakage, it'll send the notification to your app and say, hey, Sentry mode's been triggered. The car itself is going to play that spooky music. Yep, that one. And it's going to kind of blast it, and it'll also kind of set off a car alarm. So it's smart that they did that, because there's this kind of known thing called alarm fatigue, where people hear car alarms nowadays and they don't even bat an eye anymore, because they just figure something loud drove by or someone knocked into it. So by playing the music, it's kind of like brings people back to like, oh, what's going on? Like there has to be something going on over there. I'm gonna go check it out. And then there's the speed limit mode. I actually believe I was wrong a second ago. They split out from valet mode speed limit mode, so you could turn both on. And this is where you would put a pin in. So let's just put anything in just for a second here. Okay, well, I'm not going to put my own pin here, but basically you put your pin and it restricts the speed limit to what you set it. So I think the lowest you can go is something like 50, maybe 60, I forget, but it doesn't allow someone driving your car to go over that speed limit. I think it is pretty high though, because it has to be safely able to drive on highways and things like that. Okay. So let's go back. We're going to look now at the charging screen. So here you can see my car is currently charged to 90%. Tesla doesn't recommend you charge more than 90% on a daily basis. And you can actually set the charge limit by dragging the slider here. So if I grab that little arrow, and I'm going to do that now, you can see I could choose to put it on 90% as it was. I can drag it over to 80% here, 70, 60, 50. So on a daily basis, they kind of recommend you put it somewhere in there. I like just knowing that I have like a 90% charge on it most days, which I think is something like 280 miles on the long range Model 3. If you're going on a trip, or you're going to have to do a lot of driving the next day, you can just drag that guy all the way to the end, and you'll get the full range out of the Model 3. But like I said, Tesla does not recommend doing that on a daily basis, or even very frequently, just to prolong the longevity of your battery in your car. So you can open your charge port from here if it's not already open. And then another cool thing is it kind of shows you nearby superchargers. So there's one that actually just opened up in Marlton. That's a brand new supercharger. And then there's a few others somewhat close by to me, not super close, but these are kind of in major shopping districts and down the Jersey Shore and things like that. And then there's a list of destination chargers. So generally these are hotels where you can stay and you can charge while you're staying there overnight. So kind of a neat feature there on the charging screen. It'll tell you where the car is. So I've actually blacked that part out so that my home address isn't shared with you, because that's where my car is right now. And then there's the summon screen. And the summon screen will actually show you the picture of your car, and what you can do here, and I'm not going to do this now, is from here you can hit forward or reverse, and your car will actually back itself out of a parking spot, or say pull itself into your garage, and it'll do it with no one in the car, which is really cool. I'm not going to I'm not going to show you that in this video, but we'll go through Summon in its entirety in another video on another day. Okay. And then you can also schedule service. So I have a service appointment scheduled for a glass breakage that unfortunately had happened to me. But you can schedule service right from the app. The Tesla Model 3 will actually order its own parts. So it does self-diagnostics. And if it senses something is wrong, it will actually send you an email and a notification saying, hey, we noticed that you need a new blah, blah, blah. We already ordered it. It's going to the service center. Please make an appointment to have that thing installed. Really cool stuff there. So that's basically the Tesla app. You see there's some quick launch icons here at the top for turning the climate on, for opening the front, and for locking the car. Those 3 buttons at the top under the picture of the car. But in a nutshell, that is the Tesla app. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit here. We're going to go pop back up my iPhone screen, and we are going to hop into the Stats app. So the Stats app is a third-party app developed to help you look not just at controlling your car, but look at the stats about your car. And so I'll take you through the screens here. We'll look at the different components of them. So starting on this screen, you can see on the top, it's a battery, right? So this is going to tell you all about your battery. Right now, you can see I have an 89% state of charge. I have a 0.2 mile per hour phantom drain rate. That means either systems or background processes that are happening in the car are draining my battery at a rate of 0.2 miles every hour. So that means every 5 hours, I'm losing a mile if I'm not plugged in. That's not too bad, right? We have a 267 mile estimated range. As of right now, it's rated for 277, but this is taking into affect environmental factors and different things, and that's why it's a bit rated difference between the rated and the estimated. And then you can see my driving efficiency. They have between 0 and 150, so I'm almost about 100%. You can kind of say what they meant for it to be driven like. And then miles per gallons on the right hand side, equivalent is basically 130 based on my driving, right? So it gives you a little bit of information at the bottom about how many watt hours per mile I use on average, 259, which I think is a little bit on the high side, but maybe not too bad. And then you can see there's some things like the cost of the most recent charging session. I unplugged it and plugged it back in, so it barely charged. It added maybe 1 mile, and it cost me 2 cents. Let's go to the next screen. Oh, and I should note here that from here, I can set where I want the charge to go as well. So I have it set to 90. I'm going to keep it at 90, but you can do the same thing here that you can do on the charging screen in the Tesla app. I'm going to go ahead and click on some of these stats here. So there's some nice animations you can kind of see pop up. And this has a bunch of different bar graphs. We'll go through them somewhat quickly. This is showing me how many miles I've added in the top bar graph here, and on the bottom, my driving efficiency. I can look at miles per gallon equivalents. So, kind of going down here, I can see how many miles I've driven daily. I can see over 7 days how many miles every day, and then over 30 days how many miles every week, right? So you can kind of get some information about how much you're driving. At the bottom here, there's kilowatts first time. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at this particular graph super closely, but I believe it's just how much kilowatts. It's the charge rate versus the battery level. So that's just showing you versus state of charge and versus time. And then your battery health at the bottom here. So my car is rated for 310 miles if it were to be fully charged. And basically what it's showing is a linear fit between all the different times I've charged, what I would get. And you can kind of see I'm right about there at 310. If I go down, I can see the range in miles on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And this is for phantom drain. So how many miles did I lose? So it looks like I lost 112 total miles in May. So that's actually kind of an interesting one. And I can kind of see that. All right, so let's bump up. If I go back at the top, I can see at this top chart, I didn't go through, but I can see costs. So how much did I pay on a monthly basis for electricity? How many kilowatts did I add? And how much savings did I have? Okay. So if we go to the next screen, this is actually a cool screen. It'll show my car, which is Excelsior, versus Model X's. In this case, I can choose to just look at it versus other Model 3s. So you can see in my particular case, I'm kind of right there at the average on this bell curve for efficiency across all other users. I can measure myself, though, across all Tesla owners, and you can kind of see I'm slightly, maybe a little bit ahead, maybe versus just Model S owners, right? A little tiny bit more ahead. Versus X a little bit more, right? So I can kind of play with that. And then on the bottom, I can see where do I land as far as phantom drain. And actually, this one I want to be lower. Looks like I am versus other Model 3s. Further even for Model X's, and then right there with the Model S's. Okay. And then I can see the histogram of firmware versions. So, basically the percent of people on each firmware version. So they're rolling out this most recent one, 2019.16.11, and it looks like about 18% of people are on that right now. At least 18% of people that use the Stats app. I believe that's how that works. And then just daily efficiency across users. So there's a lot of stats, right? That's why it's called Stats. But let's not forget that you can also control your Tesla in the same ways that you can control it through the other apps. So here you see I can open the front, I can open the trunk, I can open the charge port, honk the horn, enable Sentry mode. I can unlock it, start the climate, right? I can do everything that I can do via the Tesla app. I can do in here on this app as well. Now, here's where this app, I think, really shines. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? You just went to the settings menu. This app has some smart features. And those smart features, one in particular for me is kind of the winner, right? And what that is, let's just skip into Smart Sentry. We'll start at the bottom of the smart features. This basically says that when I am not at home, wherever I am, it's going to automatically enable Sentry mode for me. And that's awesome because what that means is that I don't have to remember to go into my settings screen and hit Sentry mode. Now, I know when I get 2019.16, when the new firmware comes out, this is built into the Tesla now, so they have options for automatically enabling it. But I still think that this is really cool because it allows me, before I even have that firmware, to do things. And this app continuously gets updated. So I'm sure once the benefit of this goes away, they're going to come out with some other benefit. There's some smart battery prep, so you can set schedules for when you want it to start warming your battery if you leave your home every day at the same time. This way you get some more efficiency while you're driving. And then same thing with smart heating and cooling. You can have it start heating the cool at a certain time every day. And unlike internal combustion engines where you can't, if your car is in a garage, you can't kind of start heating it early, right? Because you can't have your car on and the exhaust and all that. In the Tesla, what's nice is you can actually start heating or cooling the car right in your garage. So when you get in, it's ready to go and it's at that temperature that you like. You can input your price per kilowatt. So this is how it comes up with that cost and the savings. And actually the savings, is more so from the cost of gas per gallon. So I have 230 right now. I think it's actually higher than that. I just haven't updated this, but that's how it's coming up with the cost and the savings, and the miles per gallon and things like that. So there's a lot of other formatting options and things like that, but those are the primary things. And then there's just some links here to various Tesla websites. So that, in a nutshell, is the Stats app. I should also mention, if you are an Apple Watch owner, like myself, there is an Apple Watch app that's awesome. It has a lot of the controls in it, and you can actually enable Sentry mode directly from a complication on the front of your app. So I can actually, I'm not going to be able to show you, but if I click on the Stats complication, one of the first options, actually the first option, is enable Sentry. And the app opens within like 3 seconds, which is awesome. I use the app on the Apple Watch a lot. Now, something I haven't mentioned is that the Tesla app obviously is free when you get your Tesla. You can actually download the app beforehand. You just won't be able to log in and see the features. The Stats app, unfortunately, not the same story. It's $19.99. Now, I know a lot of your heads just exploded because in App World, I might as well have just said $1 million. But that $19.99 is definitely worth it for your Tesla and for the managing of all your stats, being able to see everything, especially for the Apple Watch app and the complications. It's just a great app. I think the developers deserve that $19.99. It's a nice piece of software, and you could tell that they really put time into making it work well. They're also updating it constantly, so I have no remorse for paying that $19.99. I would pay it again if I had to. All right, so the Tesla app does do what it needs to do. It controls the car, it gives you the functions that it needs to give you, but the Stats app does give you a little bit more than that. It gives you a ton of information about the car. It gives you those same controls, and it extends them to the Apple Watch. Let's not forget about that. I didn't even talk about Siri shortcuts, and you can get into a deep rabbit hole being able to talk and tell your car to do things through your Apple Watch or your phone. All that stuff is really awesome. All that stuff is really just available via the Stats app, at least between the two that we're comparing today. So at the end of the day, I use the Stats app way more than I use the Tesla app. Though, let's be honest, I do still find myself kind of hopping the Tesla app now and again, mainly if I'm waiting for a software update to see if that thing's come or not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video, and I will see you guys next time.